Well, how in the hell did Last Straw slip by me? Anyway, let's review it. Last Straw stars Jessica Belkin, Taylor Kowalski, and is directed by Alan Scott Neal. What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new 2023 review. I thought I was going to say 2025, but this movie, Last Straw, was just dropped on Shudder, I believe, not too long ago. And I don't remember it, like, making waves in 2023 or even being released. I'm sure it was. What do I know? But this is the first time I've heard of it, okay? And I just kind of happened upon it because I was browsing Amazon to watch something, and you know how it'll say, if you like this, you might like this. And I saw Last Straw was on there, and the poster caught my eye, and I thought it was a brand new movie because it was kind of in the newer movie section for Shudder. I have Amazon that has like a Shudder extension on it. That's how I use it. And so, yeah, anyway, this movie caught my eye, and I was like, oh, is this a brand new movie? And then I saw that it was from 2023. Okay, but it looks interesting. Let's watch it. Didn't think I was going to review it. When this movie was over, I thought immediately, I have to review this. This was just to tell my audience, because a lot of you might not even know about this movie. It really impacted me. I really, really liked it, okay? And I know that we're all different, and our brain molecules operate differently, and some of you might not like the movie, but some of you will. So I definitely wanted to spread the word about this movie, Last Straw. And also, before I go any further, consider subscribing to the channel if you like this type of stuff. I always call myself an 85% horror channel, but I cover just about everything. But horror is definitely where my heart is. And by the way, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I usually never record this early in the morning, but sometimes you got to find those time slots, right? And at night, I'm tired. And I had the intention of recording the other night, but I just wasn't in the headspace, and I was just exhausted. I'm up, and let's go. I have like bed crusty eyes, but I don't care. Let's do this. So Last Straw is small town psychotic horror. That's what I like to call it. You have this young waitress by the name of Nancy, and her father, played by Jeremy Sisto, happens to be the owner of the restaurant, and he's giving her responsibilities to be a manager. And so that's kind of the beginning of this movie, getting to know who Nancy is as a character, and she's being tested. She has these employees under her, and she's not the best manager, because who would be when they just start doing it, right? And she's got these young guys that are whippersnappers, and they're testing her, and they're challenging her. And then there's this one character by the name of Jake, played by Taylor Kowalski, who definitely pushes her buttons, and she fires him. Just an instinctual type of thing. Should she have fired him? Who knows? And her father checks her on it later. And that does play a part in this movie. But this is it's a horror movie, or I think it's more of like a thriller. There are these criminals that show up sometime in the movie. Let's just say they're there to cause havoc, okay? Because I don't want to spoil anything. This is one of those movies that at a certain point, it sort of shifts gears, or it gives you a big twist. Because the first half of the movie, it's just kind of paint by the numbers. And I'd even say, if I had to poke at it a little bit, I don't think the dialogue is the strongest. I think they could have massaged it, maybe a couple more passes. But, it gets the job done. And I thought that this was going to be just maybe a 3 out of 5 type movie. Nothing too horrible. Don't regret watching it. And then it takes a turn. And once it takes this turn, and I'm not going to tell you what happens in this turn, then I was fully on board, and it took some risks, and it was really fun. And more importantly, the characters started to really leap off the screen, especially Nancy. I will mention Jake, just because he is a pivotal character in this. And he is that question mark throughout because of what has happened to him. You're constantly going to be wondering, is he the good guy? Is he the bad guy? Who knows? And that's just part of the fun of this movie. And I think Taylor Kowalski really gave him some meat to the character. But also, I loved Jessica Belkin as Nancy once she comes into her own. There's a moment in the movie, at the beginning where she finds out she's pregnant, and she's young. She is kind of promiscuous. And all of this is just because, she's just very young. She has her life ahead of her. You're going to make mistakes when you're at that age. As you can see, this is a very flawed character throughout. This is a character that kind of comes full circle. She has to step up to the plate. She's put to the test in more ways than one in this movie. And she comes out a leading lady. Also, I like that most of this movie takes place in a diner. I don't know what it is. I love diners in movies. It kind of made me think of the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, how the beginning of that movie starts in a diner. But also, speaking of Nightmare, her name's Nancy. There is some really fun and great music in this movie that's going to definitely remind you of Nightmare on Elm Street. Made me want to go back and watch some of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies after I watched this movie. The music was, you could tell that there's just some love for that franchise. The music is like just infectious. By the way, I got to mention her father is played by Jeremy Sisto, Edward. And at first I didn't realize who it was. And then I was like, oh my God, Jeremy Sisto. This was like one of the it guys, young people in the 90s. He was in a lot of movies in the late 90s, early 2000s. He was in Clueless. He was in, I think, a movie called Hideaway with Alicia Silverstone, which also had her in Clueless. He also played Jesus, I think, at one point in his career. But it was cool to see him. He just has a very recognizable voice, I always thought Jeremy Sisto would have been a great serial killer in a movie just because of his voice. You didn't even really need to see his face. He just had a very menacing voice. So it was cool to see him in this as well. And last thing I got to mention, for those of us that like masks in horror movies, this is one of those. There are a few masks at play because the group of characters that are attacking the diner, and they're very violent. This movie has a lot of blood in it. They're all wearing these masks, which I love that stuff. I think that's kind of cool. I don't know what it is about masks. We got Hard Eyes coming out here in a couple of weeks. And, that's part of what gets you there, right? With these movies. You love a good mask in a horror movie. And this is one of those movies. But this one definitely has some twists, okay, guys? It keeps you guessing, and you're going to form your own conclusions at a certain point. And then you might be right, you might be wrong, right? And that's just part of the fun of this movie. But loved the performances. I loved the direction that this movie took. I loved how chaotic it got in the final act. That's what you want out of these thrillers. And more importantly, I really loved the characters. So definitely check out Last Straw when you get a chance. It's on Shudder right now. And I'm going to put this in my 2025 list just because this is the first time I've ever heard it. That's kind of the rule at play when I do my top 10s, right? If it's a movie that I just heard about, then I'm just going to put it in that list. So it will be in my 2025 list, and it'll factor somewhere at the end of the year. And I like putting as many as I can in there. Yeah, giving this one a low purchase worthy, for sure. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of Last Straw. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do free for all Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on all my socials. Support me on Patreon. Become a channel member. Buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. And Drumdum out.